When is the season? When is the timing? Where is provision for my assignment?
So what is identity?
Identity. Identity is the content of your soul. The content of your soul is who you are, is your identity. So your beliefs, your values, your attitudes, your personality, or your character, the content of your soul is your identity.
Wow. You see why I couldn't explain? Identity is the content of your soul.
Yeah.
All right. So what is the true source
of identity?
Of our identity?
The true source of our identity is God.
Is that general for everyone, or only us, the Christians?
It should be. It ought to be. God ought to be that, because God not ought to be the true source. God is the true source of our identity, and ought to be the true source of your identity. So you have to. It's something you have to purpose in your heart to get to know God, so you can get to know yourself. The Bible says that it is they that are led by the Spirit of God that are the sons of God. So your identity is birthed from His leadership, and you're obeying His leadership and you're following. Because God is leading us every day, but not all of us are following. So not all of us are manifesting our identity, our true identity. You cannot actually leave the earth without having ever lived in the truth of who you are. It's possible.
That sounds sad.
Yeah, it's really sad. When you look at people like, I'll give an example of Abraham. There was a certain content in his soul before God starts to speak to him and tells him, get thee out of your father's house. So the content of his soul, what he believed, his attitudes, his responses to things, that was who he was, that was his identity. But now when he meets the voice of God, the voice of God now changes his belief. That you can believe in me. There is a way I do things. Your identity is who I say you are. And I already have determined who you are. But the manifestation of that is going to come from you being led by me. So you manifest your sonship, you manifest your identity. Every time you obey God, you're manifesting, you're revealing what creation is groaning for. And that is you.
So every time you follow God, you're literally manifesting your identity.
Yes. Every time you follow Him, there is a making within you, and then what you are made within then manifests what's external. Yeah.
This is interesting. Honestly, it's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
So ideally, our true source is God.
Yeah.
Whether people believe or not.
Yeah.
I
like also the example of Jeremiah. Before God comes and tells Jeremiah that before I formed thee in your mother's belly, I knew you. So I already knew, your identity is in me. I'm the one that made you. So until Jeremiah encountered God, he didn't know who he was. And yet there was something he was known as.
Oh my.
His friends knew him as something. His parents knew him as something until he encounters the voice of God. And the voice of God reveals his identity. And after God reveals who He is, that I've already called you as a prophet, I've qualified, I've approved of you. You don't have to qualify for this, you have to step into it.
Yes, because it's who I called you to be.
And now we see the mind of Jeremiah. Jeremiah tells him, a prophet needs to speak, I cannot speak. I don't know how to speak. I've seen prophets be a certain age, I'm not that age, I'm too young. So that was the content of his soul. If you ask Jeremiah, who are you? Prophet would not be one of them.
Definitely.
Speaker would not be one of them. You mean I can uproot and I can plant? That was not part of it. And yet that was who he was. That was his true identity.
Yeah.
So he gives God all these sorts of excuses. And God tells him, I'm going to put my words in your mouth. So I qualify you. And I give you ability. So until you've met God, you don't know who you are. He had an idea of who he was. His friends must have thought who he was until he met the voice of God. So in receiving that, there was a making within him and then a manifestation. So when he begins to manifest the prophet, everybody begins to see a strange Jeremiah.
Yeah, who is this Jeremiah? Who is this
and that
Jeremiah?
was who he truly was. Yeah.
I love that. Now I want to ask you a question that...
You got a purpose, walk in alignment.